All right, let's see if we are live. See if we are live. Perfect. All right, today's day 235. We're going to look at this deal on the market. 1632 West 58th Street, Birmingham, Alabama, 35228. So this looks relatively turnkey. So some of these turnkey properties are probably the easiest to analyze because you don't have to spend so much time analyzing and estimating rehab, which sometimes folks might not have the best experience with, or sometimes it's just hard to estimate rehabs, especially if you don't get to see the property. As you can see, this property is relatively turnkey. Let's see what's going on the street. That house looks updated, so that's good. I like to see signs of updated houses on the same street. Yeah, these houses look great curb appeal. I kind of like this neighborhood then so far. Yeah, solid houses. Okay, so the first thing we want to do for this property is get the fair market rent. In order to do that, we have to get the county. Now, after you get the county, you can go to HUD FMR. Just Google HUD FMR, click on the first link. After you click on the first link, you can go down to the bottom, click on Access to Small Area FMR. FMR stands for Fair Market Rents. Look up FY 2024 FMR, select the state, select the county, and now you're going to get this maximum rent, including utilities, by zip code, by bedroom count, 35228. And you're going to see right here that the rent ceiling for a property in 35228, the maximum rent for a 3-bed is $1,450, and the maximum rent for a 4-bed is $1,620. So let's write that down: $1,450, $1,620. And I like to write down all of these so that I can just quickly remember and reference the rent in case I do analyze another property in the zip code. So I could be a little bit more efficient in the future. Okay. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to get the market rents. In order to get the market rents, I go to affordablehousing.com. I go to the owner section, go to the market rent estimator. And then once I come in here, I'm going to plug in the address. So when you plug in the address right here, you're going to get it by the bedroom count. And you're going to see the number here on the bottom right is the most important number, where it says that for 25 units within a 0.62 mile radius, the average rent for a 3-bedroom is $1,077. Let's write that down, 1077. I'm going to write down the rest of these numbers just so I can quickly reference on how it compares to the rest of the area, to the city, and the zip 1052. Okay. Now, when you compare, sometimes people make a mistake and they say, hey, the FMR is $1,450, so I'm going to get $1,450 for this property. Well, you will be mistaken. And the reason you'll be mistaken is because of the rent reasonableness test. And I'm going to pull up the Housing Choice Voucher Program so you guys can see the rent reasonableness definition. So comparability in section 2.2, you're going to see that in conducting rent reasonableness, the PHA, or the Public Housing Authority, must determine whether the rent to the owner is a reasonable rent in comparison to rent for other comparable unassisted units, which essentially states that you can't charge more rent to a tenant simply because they are a voucher holder. So if you went ahead and you saw that FMR was $1,450 and you never looked at the market rent and you underwrote the deal with $1,450, that's how you lose money. So what do we learn? We'll learn how to not do that today. Okay, that's really important. So now that I got the market rent for a 3-bed, I want to get the market rent for a 4-bed, just in case there's a creative way to get additional rent. $1,278 is the market rent for the 4-bedroom. So I'm just going to leave that in there just in case there's ever an opportunity for me to convert the property into a 4-bedroom, which I don't think, was there a garage here? Let's double check. Look. So no garage in this one, so I probably won't be converting it to a 4-bedroom. Usually if there's a garage, usually that's a pretty easy convert. Kind of frame out the inside, put an air in there. Sometimes it's a little bit easier. So today I'm just going to underwrite this deal as a 3-bed. And again, because of the rent reasonableness test, when you compare the small area fair market rent of $1,450 to the $1,077, I'm probably going to take the lower of the two. If I want, since it's brand new renovated, I might go up to $1,100, but I'm not going to go up that much higher as is for now. Okay. Asking price for this property is $160,000. So let's plug this in, 160,000. Renovations and furnishing. For this property, we said that this is relatively turnkey. So I might just leave a little bit of money. Is there a new roof? Let's see. All new appliances. They don't say anything about the roof. So I might just leave aside a little bit of money, maybe $1,500 for the roof. I'm gonna have $500 set aside just to do some cleanup on the yard outside so that it's maintained while I'm getting the property running. And I got $1,500 for the roof just in case there's some patching that needs to happen on the roof that I cannot tell from the photos. Because from the finisher's perspective, this house looks beautiful, right? But I'm more worried about the items that I cannot see with my naked eye, especially on just photos. So I got $2,400 for rehab on this deal. $1,100 for rent, and let's go get ahead and get the property tax and insurance, which I'm just going to take it from right here. So since the property taxes here is $46, that seems a little low, but we'll go with it. The homeowner insurance is $124, so I'm going to do equals 124 times 1.2, because typically an insurance policy for a rental property is usually a little bit more expensive than the insurance policy for a primary residence home. Hence why I'm adding a 20% premium by taking the estimate on that Redfin page and multiplying it by 1.2. Make sense? All right. So now let's assume that I have to buy this property at a 25% down. So I got 25% right here. So this sell, the down payment is going to equal to the asking price multiplied by the down payment percentage of 25%. So that's how you get $40,000. Okay. Now, my financing amount, that's going to equals to my asking price subtracted by the down payment. And so I will be financing this property at 120 grand. Interest rates are probably right around 8.25% right now, especially on a DSCR, a debt service coverage ratio loan. So I'm going to put that in there. I'm just going to put this as 5/1/2024, just keep things easy. So that's how it calculates what my principal and interest payment is, assuming a 30-year loan with 25% down. Okay. I got a 2% closing cost. So I might bump this up to 2.5% because that was closer to it for this market. And if I update that, I just got to update this decimal to 0.025 if I want it to be 2.5%. So everything's really flexible. You can just update it in the spreadsheet. Again, I didn't create the spreadsheet from scratch. I had another copy and I just combined a bunch of different spreadsheets and I tweaked it so that it fits how I analyze deals. You guys are happy and more than welcome to do the same thing. Just DM me your email on Instagram and my teammate, Pia, will send it out to you. All right. So I got 10% for maintenance. Every single month, I set aside 10% of my rents every single month for maintenance, CapEx, replacements, because guess what? Something will always break in your home. And if you don't set aside this $100 every single month, what's going to happen when you have to replace a roof for like 10 grand 5 years from now, 10 years, 15, 20 years from now? It doesn't matter. This is money that does not belong to you. So this is why it's so important for you to figure out what is your true maintenance number. And I choose 10% for now. And then I got property management for 8%. And then I also have vacancy at 5%. So usually property management can range from 8, 10, 12%. That's usually how it goes. So sometimes people, when they analyze deals, they don't necessarily analyze the deal with property manager because they might think, oh, I'm going to self-manage it myself. And great idea, but if you don't underwrite the deal with property management right now, then essentially you are buying yourself a job, right? Because if you don't underwrite with property management, then you can never outsource or offload that task to other folks, and you will never be able to have a weekend free. And I believe that most of us, whenever we do this, our goal is to truly have financial freedom, freedom of choice, and the time that we want to do whatever we want, right? So if you don't underwrite with this deal, then you can never get out of that task. And that's why it's going to be so important for you to figure out what you want to do and underwrite the deals with those assumptions so that it gives you the flexibility and the freedom. Because if you're hoping that this deal is only a deal that gets you 10%, but that's only if you self-manage it, then you can never get out of it because you never make money if you don't have property management. Okay. Vacancy. So vacancy, that means that someone's going to move out of your home no matter what. At some point, they move out, whether it's 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Even though most of the time, the theory is that affordable housing or Section 8 tenants typically stay a little bit longer than the folks. So I think 5% or 3% is pretty reasonable. All right. So now that we got all these scenarios down, let's go ahead and go through the scenarios. So if you rent out this property as a 3-bedroom and you got $1,100 for rent, you would be in negative $249 of cash flow a month. And that would be a negative 6.5% cash and cash return, assuming your purchase price was $160,000 with a $2,400 rehab. Okay. All right. Now, the exercise I want to go through with all of you today is to understand what makes this a deal, right? How do you make this a deal? Now, the first lever I like to pull is with the purchase price. Very, very easy, right? So everything else stays the same. It's a 3-bed, $1,100 for rent still. And if my asking price goes down to $100,000, pay attention to what happens to this cash and cash return. And you get a 3.56%. What is $80,000? Well, now all of a sudden it always gets to almost 10%. So this would be a deal, assuming it's turnkey with a $2,400 rehab and you can get $1,100 of rent. This would be a deal, assuming you can cash flow $201 a month, and that's roughly a 9.9% cash and cash return. Now, that's what makes it a deal at $8,000. Let me highlight this for you guys so you guys can follow this really clearly. Now, what if, let's just say, what if you were able to get $1,200 in your rent? $1,200. Now, all of a sudden, you're at 13.69. So now you have a little bit of room to increase the asking price. So if I went to $95,000, it's still not $90,000. Cool, that's much closer. So because my rent went up by $100 from $1,100 to $1,200, I can cash for $222. Whoops, that'd be a 9.8% return. But now I'm willing to pay $90,000. And this is the exercise that I think is the most important. Again, this is not investment advice. I'm not soliciting any investments, not giving any investment advice. I'm just showing you guys the exercise that you can go through to figure out what set of terms will make this a deal. Because for every property, there has to be a set of terms that makes it a deal. And in this case, if you go up to $1,200, well, what does that make it? Sure. Let's say you get to the best case scenario. Let's say $1,300 because it usually includes utilities. If you can get $1,300 in rent for this property, because it's so nice, maybe you get an exception. Well, now all of a sudden you're willing to pay up to $100,000, right? Because your return is still 9.7, and that's a little bit closer to 10. So I'm just rounding here. But now you're willing to pay $100,000, assuming your rent was $1,300. You're still 3-bedroom, but now you're cash flowing $242, and now your rehab is still $2,400. Hopefully, this kind of really hits it home. Because now you can figure out what you are willing to pay, right? Now, let's say your rent stays at $1,300. Okay, all right, let's play it out here. But your rehab goes up to, let's say you found something during inspection and you found something behind the walls or there's a big leak or something like that. Now, all of a sudden, maybe it multiplied by 5, right? Now your rehab is $12,000. Now what do? Instead of panicking, you already go through this exercise of saying, well, crap, my rehab just went up 5 times higher than I expected. So what am I willing to pay for the property now? If you go back to $90,000, watch what happens to this cash and cash hold. So 9.77. So that's 9.8%. Great. So before, right, look what happened. When we went to $1,300, we said we were willing to pay $100,000 now because of how much higher the rents we're able to get. But the big variable right now is that my rehab 5x from $2,400 to $12,000. Well, because it's such a bigger rehab than I thought, now all of a sudden I have to come back down and tell the seller I'm not willing to pay $100,000 anymore, even though I can get $1,300 because of X and X that I found in inspection and because I got a bid from a contractor. And now all of a sudden it's no longer a deal at 100, but I would be willing to swallow it and proceed if I got back a $10,000 credit and I bought the property for $90,000. And hopefully this makes a lot of sense for a lot of folks, because I really want to hammer home that for every single property, there's a set of terms that make it a deal. And you have to understand where are the levers that you're pulling to make this deal a deal, quote unquote. Your own investment criteria, your own return requirements are going to be different. Some people might just want to break even because you might be investing in an area where the property prices go up by 10% every single year. So you'd be happy you just broke even. That's your own personal choice. That's your own options. But these are the set of terms that you have to go through and you analyze and you figure out what makes sense for you and your portfolio and your investment criteria. Now, based off of that, that's how we came up with all these criteria. And these are all the set of terms, whether or not that's a change in purchase price or a change in rent. That's how you figure out what will make it a deal. So hopefully that makes sense. My goal with this is for you guys to simply copy my homework. Analyze the same deal I analyzed today using the same spreadsheet, same property, doesn't matter. Pick one part I explained in and explain it better. Because that's how we get better together. That's how we learn together. That's how we build a community together. That's how we can help other people coming into this. Because it's the scariest thing if you really don't know how to spot a deal. Or it's really scary when you get into a deal and all of a sudden you find these things. You pop open a hood and you see all these issues, which is going to happen no matter what. I've never heard of an investor that ever said, oh, this deal went perfectly. It was on time, on budget, no issues, no surprises. Rarely does that ever happen. And if you know how to react, and in this scenario, by reacting, I mean you go through the scenarios and say, okay, well, my rehab just went up 5x. So this is what I have to do to make this a deal, quote unquote, for myself. And when you can apply math to it and take the emotion out of it, hopefully that takes some of the anxiety out of your life. It doesn't drain your energy as much, and you can preserve that energy for your kids, for your family, to play with them, to hang out with them. Just why do we do this? We do this so that we hang out with them. So hopefully this was helpful. I really appreciate all your time. Thank you so much for being part of the affordable housing real estate investing community. Hey, Kennedy, good to see you. Kennedy is one of my first guests that was ever on the Affordable Housing podcast, so definitely check her out. I am so blessed that we've had so many amazing people come onto the podcast, and I really, really appreciate all the support. So thank you so much for caring about affordable housing. If there weren't people like all of you that are watching that cares about Section 8, that cares about workforce housing, that cares about multifamily ground up for building beautiful apartments for safe, decent, affordable housing, I would never have the home I grew up in. So thank you so much for being part of the community. I'll be back here again tomorrow for day 236. So just copy my homework, guys. Put it on your own YouTube channel. Just remember, all it takes is 18 minutes. If you spend 18 minutes with me today and you just copy the same homework, talk about the same thing, but explain one part better, you do it for 365 days. You're going to be better at analyzing deals than 95% of the country. Might that give you some confidence that you know what you're doing when that happens? Might that give your partners more confidence? Even if you never bought a property before, might they have a little bit more confidence in you? Because you get to say, when they ask you, why do you think this is a deal? Well, you can say, you know it's a deal because you spent the past 235 days analyzing deals, and those were all not deals. Might that give your partners a little bit more confidence? I certainly hope so. So thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate you guys turning into live. Thank you so much. DM me your email on Instagram. You want to copy the spreadsheet. And please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Kent_HE. Tomorrow I'll be releasing another podcast that talks about low-income housing tax credits with Zan. It's going to be a great one. We're going to continue delivering value. And if you guys ever have any feedback for what type of questions you want me to ask guests, please DM me those questions, because I created a podcast. I created a platform to ask questions on behalf of all of you. And it's very important that I know what kind of questions you guys have. I'm trying to get better every single day, and I will get better every single day. But I want to do it alongside with all of you. So thank you so much for your support. I really, really appreciate it. I hope you guys have an amazing Wednesday. Spend that quality time with your family and friends today. And I'll see you back here again tomorrow for day 236. Thank you, everybody. Have a good one.